o'clock. It is Friday, September 22nd. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Matt Belman. We're here to break down this 11-game slate. We've got an hour in front of us. Doesn't seem like we've got any hiccups or anything. Nobody coming up behind us. This is just straight up baseball to close out the work week. Shout out to Owner's Box, who is no longer on the overlay because I'm dumb and covered that up. Also, shout out to the Red Zone promo. We'll hit on that in a bit. But first, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. What's going on to chat? Matt, what's going on with you? How's your Friday?
It's going pretty good, man. I'm not gonna lie. I was really digging the beats to the that were leading up to the show here. I don't think I've ever heard that before, and I was vibing. So really dig good. Those. Hopefully, you play those again at some point in the future.
Next Friday when we close this bad boy out, I'll make sure that's the song we use.
Sweet.
Maybe I'll download it out of StreamYard for you. Send you that over just in case you need that in your life.
Thanks.
Should be a fun slate. I got a lot of weird stuff. It got even weirder than what I had earlier today. The two big stacks that I have a stand on, I'm not happy about. So I'm very, very anxious to get a couple more lineups in. I saw the Dodgers lineup just came in. Anxious to get everything so that I could run this and find out if I'm playing utter trash like it seems like I am. We need the Giants lineup yet, and we need the Tigers lineup. Technically speaking, I only need one of those. So shout out to the Giants, who I'm sure will not get that lineup in until at best 6:45. I hate rostering them anyway, but we got a lot to talk about. We're going to start on the pitching side, if that works for you.
Sure does.
All right, then I guess we'll just lump all three of these dudes in together. We have three guys that are basically the same ownership, and nobody's close to them. Pablo Lopez is at 36%. Chris Sale and Framber Valdez are both at about 31. The next closest guy is at 18. So we don't have anybody in the 20s, but we did move three guys to the 30s. It's Pablo Lopez at 10,700, Framber Valdez at 10,200, and then Chris Sale at 9,200. When you look at those three guys, who's the priority of that three for you?
Well, I'll answer this in two separate ways. For me, it's Lopez, but I really feel like you can on case for all three of these guys based on matchup, price point, etc. Like, if they were all the same price, clearly I would like Lopez the best. He's a little bit more expensive, certainly more expensive than Sale. I imagine he has a little bit longer of a leash than Sale does. I think the ownership makes sense on all three guys. Like, I think you're really nitpicking by choosing between them. You know, Sale's pitch count is baked into the price. Like, he's too cheap for the slate. It's a great matchup. Valdez is, in my opinion, going to be kind of the odd man out a little bit. I think his ownership comes in less than the other two guys. He's also in a good matchup at home against KC. I like all three of them. They stand out as the top three guys, like, by far.
No disagreement there. I think they're very clearly the top three guys. They should be the three guys that are getting the most ownership. I have no qualms with any of it. I'm getting to two of them more than I'm getting to a third. I have a little bit more of Pablo Lopez. I'm at 44%. I'm a little bit higher on Framber Valdez. I'm at 47, which means Chris Sale is the low man for me in just 17% of my lineups. I don't hate it. Obviously, like, I assumed one of those guys was going to take a haircut, and I did expect it to be Sale just based on the way that I looked at the slate earlier today. So I'm a little bit lighter on Sale, and not that I want to put any spoilers out for the second half of this show, but while I'm not getting to Sale, I am getting to his opponents. So go White Sox, evidently, which we'll touch on later. I don't like it in any way, but I don't have much to add for those three guys. I do think that 30% ownership is about right for all three of them. They look good today.
Yeah, they look really good. I agree with you in the sense that, like, if I were building 150, I'd probably be the lightest on Sale. I do actually think, you know, our ownership has them projected very similarly. If I were making my own ownership projections right now, I wouldn't be surprised if they had Sale like a little bit higher than the other two just because of the price point.
Yeah.
I've heard him talked about a lot today. You know, he keeps getting steamed up even in our ownership projection. So wouldn't be surprised if that just continues. I also have a little bit of interest in the White Sox, even in like high dollar stuff. So I'm with you there.
Well, we will get to that in a bit, but I guess right out of the gate, we don't have too much else to add for the premier pay up options on the pitching side for this slate. I don't have much to say about Charlie Morton. He's 11% owned. That seems about right. He looks uninteresting. And based on Shane Bieber's pitch count and his return to the majors, I can't see any real scenario where $9,400 Shane Bieber is worth what you want to get to. So then we start working our way down the salary tier, and that's when we get to the most interesting range of the day. From 6,800 to 7,800, we have 4 guys that are basically 15% owned. Go a little bit in either direction, but we're sitting all around 15%. That's Cole Reagans at 7,800. That's whatever Gibson Long. It's not Alec, but it's something. Is it Spencer? Is it Spencer Gibson Long? Is that the other guy? It doesn't matter. He's got 2 different names. One of them's one thing in Steamer. The other things, too many names, including the hyphenated last name. Too many names. Gibson Long, Cole Reagans, both about 15% owned. Drop down a little bit more. Ken Waldachuk at 7,100, about 15% owned. And then Brandon Pfaadt, 6,800, about 15% owned. When you see those 4 guys, because they're the other guys that are pulling any ownership, who's your value pitcher for today?
I do think from a value perspective in tournaments, I like Waldachuk the best.
Okay.
I think that, all of the guys that you mentioned look good for, their own perspective reasons. I think Gibson Long is getting too much ownership. He's pitched well his first 2 starts, but that's the only reason he's picking up. Well, that's half the reason he's picking up ownership. The other half is he's in Oakland against the A's, but he doesn't project well or anything like that. So he's a guy that I don't want to ride the ownership with.
Same.
Pfaadt is also getting too much love, but he's too cheap. So I think you can make the strong case for him. And Waldachuk is in that same ballpark as Gibson Long. Similar matchup, a little bit tougher matchup, but he's also too cheap. So kind of like the top tier. I like all these guys for me, and I know this is kind of going against our top pitcher tool, but you got to make stands somewhere. I don't think Cole Reagans is like that guy tonight. I like the other 3 guys better. I actually, and this is disgusting to say, but I actually like a guy a little bit more expensive than Cole Reagans and Taijuan Walker.
Okay, well then give me your thoughts on Taijuan Walker. I'll say this much. I have 10% of Walker. That's more than the 7% that he is currently owned. And I am higher on Walker just in a vacuum than I am Cole Reagans or Gibson Long. I would probably prefer Waldachuk and Brandon Pfaadt just because of the salary savings at that point. But I do have Walker. I have more Walker than I have Reagans, than I have Gibson Long, and he grades out better. So what are you seeing for Taijuan Walker that stands out?
The first thing that stood out to me, and I know it's jumbled in the middle, is the top pitcher tool likes him here. He's 6th in the top pitcher tool. He's not getting the ownership at all. He's projected to be 7%. Wouldn't be surprised if it comes in a little bit lower than that, somewhere between 5 and 10%, I would project. So 7 seems right. We've talked about the Mets a lot. They've got talent, and especially in the front part of their lineup, but the bottom half stinks. Another thing, 2 things I like about Walker here, and again, it's relative when I say the word is I don't really love pitching on this slate. You've got the top 3 guys, but they're expensive, and I think there are some concerns with Sale at really high ownership. And the other thing is Walker throws a ton of pitches. So while he's not like a great DFS pitcher, tell me another guy that's thrown 103 plus pitches in 3 straight starts. Doesn't mean he's going to do it here, but it's not like he's even pitched particularly well there. They will ride him, and I think that's at 8-2, I'm fine taking a chance there at basically no ownership.
No disagreements. I think it's interesting. I think it's very telling that the Mets run total is what it is. I thought here in Philadelphia, you might see it creep up a little bit higher. And I know I'm getting to the Mets as well. I don't think anybody's surprised by that. If they've been watching this show for a while, they'll know that I get to the Mets today. Apparently is going to be no different, but I also do have Walker. I like the shout. As I look at it, and no part of this is fun, but Brandon Pfaadt is the guy that I'm getting to. I don't think that he looks good today. So I am fighting against. My explanation for this is just shoulder shrugs, unfortunately, because I look at this matchup. Now, the park limits runs a little bit, but it certainly doesn't limit power. And he has had no problem giving up power this season. 198 x ISO to lefties, 217 to righties. I only have him projected for 5 innings. it's something about the strikeout rate for the Yankees that's really pushing me towards it. I think this is a giant boom bust scenario for Brandon Pfaadt. I think it's really interesting that the Yankees only have a 4-run implied total today at home. But when I start looking at the strikeout rates against righties for everybody in the Yankees lineup, the way that it projects via Steamer, at least, Gleyber Torres is at 18. The next lowest amount is 23%. That's coming into Oswaldo Peraza in the 9-hole. Estevan Florial projects with a 32% K rate to righties via Steamer. Judge is at 26. Wells is at 26. Stanton and Bowers are both at 29. I'm crossing my fingers that he just falls into some strikeouts early and just gets out of there before the disaster happens. If he can keep the ball in the yard, I think he's the best option. But man, does he have a lot of problems with keeping people from hitting him hard.
Yeah, he does. He has been a lot better since he first got sent down. I know there was a lot of talk that they shifted where he was pitching on the mound. Like they moved him from, I think, the first base. They moved him from the extreme first base side to the extreme third base side, or vice versa. Okay. And it's helped him a lot. He has been significantly better since he got called back up. And he does look like the best, quote unquote, cheap guy. Our top pitcher tool likes him a lot. The ownership's there. Other projection systems don't like him quite as much. This is what I struggle with. I agree with you. This is a boom bust spot here. I think you could talk me into Pfaadt. I also think you could talk me into the Yankees side.
Yeah, I would have no problem getting to some of that power from New York. I think what's stopping me really is just the run total on this game. It's so much lower than I ever would have expected for Luke Weaver versus Brandon Pfaadt. It's, shaded to the under 8.5. That's so much lower than I would expect for seeing both of those names. And that's what's keeping this in check. I think there's just a little bit too much swing and miss. He's just got to get through Judge and Stanton twice, and I'll feel a little bit better. So I guess I just probably teed up a Jake Bowers homer or something. But I got to get through 5 innings, and I think that he could rack up strikeouts.
Winds are in from center pretty strong, 10 to 15 miles per hour. So that might have something to do with the total there.
That certainly helps. That's what I want to see, or at least what I want to hear, given what I have right now. I want to see what his crazy strikeout props are. What are his alternate lines? Because his current strikeout prop is set at 5.5. But if he get 7+ is plus 176. What's that? 40%, somewhere in that neighborhood. That is not if he gets to 7 strikeouts at 6,800, all you're trying to dodge at that point is 2 homers and one of them's a grand slam type stuff.
I mean, even at that point, at 6,800, if he gets 7 Ks, you're not losing because of him. Maybe he's not ultimately why you won if he gives up a bunch of runs, but I mean, you're fine there. Speaking about the weather and kind of to your point about the total in this game, the most surprising thing on this entire slate to me is where Arizona projects throughout the entire industry against Luke Weaver in Yankee Stadium. We don't really like them. The bat doesn't like them. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
So I think it's a little deceptive. And I don't know what the best way to describe this is. They are 8% owned in the aggregate. That's the 3rd highest mark of anybody on the slate. But the highest owned guy in that lineup is Corbin Carroll at 11. They're oddly flat in their ownership. And I don't think 11 to Carroll against Luke Weaver or 9 to Ketel Marte is wrong by any means. I don't think that those guys are pulling too much ownership, but somehow that aggregate, you look at it and it's just well, you shouldn't be 3rd. We have the Phillies, the Braves, the Red Sox, the Rangers, the Astros, the Twins, the Padres, the Dodgers. All of these teams have better top stack odds by a mile than the Dodgers. They're just sort of they're in between everything. They're middle of the pack top stack. They're middle of the pack top value. And somehow that's just carrying their ownership up a little bit higher. I have 2.5%. The most I have of anybody is 6. So I'm under basically everybody on this team. I'm with you. I don't really see it for the Diamondbacks.
So for me though, and I'm kind of putting this in the other way as I'm probably wrong here. You don't understand why the ownership's there. I do get the ownership. I don't understand why they're not. I don't understand why they're not higher in our top stack tool and around the industry. I don't know why. The ownership is there because they're in Yankee Stadium against Luke Weaver and they're cheap. they're not like really, really cheap, but they're much cheaper than they've been. Carroll, was around 6K. Now he's like 5,500. Ketel Marte's under 5K. Pham's under 4K. Gurriel's 3,300. They're the cheap catcher. So, like, again, given our tools, I don't like them. I just don't get like why they're not higher given the spot they're in.
I think it's the game total. I think that's driving everything because I'm lower on them than our tools are. We have them 4.9% top stack. I have it at 3.9. So I'm even lower than we are, which is making me look at it like even worse. I find them less interesting. I think that's all being driven by the fact that they have just such a criminally low run total for the game. It's a shame that Luke Weaver isn't a different pitcher in this spot because he might be more interesting than he is right now.
I mean, to be honest, I'm not playing him, but given our tools, he has gone down. He doesn't look like the worst play in the world. I mean, he just doesn't.
I mean, like, he shouldn't be 1%. Like, I don't think he's any different than Sean Manaea today.
Same. And I also don't think it's like outside the realm at all that he outscores Sawyer Gibson Long or whatever his name is.
Nope. I agree. Speaking of pitching here, since we touched on that like $6,800 to $7,800 range, you mentioned Taijuan Walker. Were there any other pitchers that you wanted to mention for today? I don't really see any other names that stand out. We touched on everybody that's getting at least 10%. No other guy on the list is a guy that I have a stand on that's low owned. I don't see any pitching that's like slipping through the cracks.
Same. The only thing I'd say in like kind of retaliation, I don't think that's the word, but to what you said earlier is like the Morton, I don't like here given the other guys. I do think he makes for like an interesting ownership play because his ownership is going to be so much less than the other guys. That's the only case I can make for him though.
Yeah. I think he's properly owned at 11. I don't think that that's too crazy, but I mean, tasty matchup. Because the Nats aren't very good. The problem in the matchup is that the Nats just don't strike out all that frequently, and that's really going to be at least a little bit more limiting. Only Lane Thomas and Joey Meneses have strikeout rates that project above 20 in their lineup. And only Lane, and Meneses is league average. Thomas is at 27, but the rest of these are in the teens, all the way down to 11 for Keibert Ruiz. I think it's just one of those spots where Morton just happens to have what is a good matchup on paper, but it's the kind of matchup where he goes 6 innings, but he only Ks like 4.
You're right. And honestly, like if he were a little bit cheaper, I wouldn't even be looking at it as like a contrarian play, and I still probably wouldn't love him. It seems that to me, Sale and Morton's price should be flipped.
Yes, I agree with you. I think that would make this slate a lot more interesting too. Because those guys, like Morton would probably get up to around 20% ownership, and it would probably cut Sale to around 20. And that decision point would become very interesting.
Agreed.
I like it. Anything else you want to touch on for pitching? I don't have any other names that are worth mentioning on my end.
No, Sam, it's pretty junky.
All righty. Folks, hit that like button. 411 people in the door right now. We don't have much to talk about in terms of schedule for the rest of the day. There is no schedule for the rest of the day. This is the last thing that we have. Now, we'll have a full package of weekend stuff. You'll get all the shows that you normally get on a Saturday. Sunday, I'll be up bright and early, giving you guys the first half hour of our 4 hours of NFL coverage, plus more later on in the day. So, look, with the NFL around, things don't stop. We have content constantly. You got to make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel, to the Odds Shopper YouTube channel. Subscribe to our podcast feeds. If you can't watch everything on YouTube, you can get the audio version of most of our shows that exist. You're never going to get the audio version of Live Before Lock because by the time we get to Lock, that show's not going to be worth it. But our strategy shows and stuff, they are all on our podcast feed. If that's more interesting to you via audio, sign up that way. Capybara wants to know, where is Ship been? Adam is on vacation, took time off. He will be back for the start of the NBA season. But he took the end of the summer off, just baseball. Doesn't care too much about doing any football stuff. I'm a little jealous of him. He's in San Diego right now, living it up. Now he's on proper vacation. Before it was just, I'm not going to do any work for a bit. Now he's on proper vacation. He is in San Diego.
Oh, what a great place to be.
Never been, oddly enough, but I would like to.
One of the best cities in the country, in my opinion. I was going to say the world.
It is on the short list.
It's just the weather's always so good, so nice, and it's just like calm. It's like, you're close to LA, but you're not too close. It's just a great place to be.
I'd say San Diego and like Seattle are probably the only two major cities that I haven't been to that I would care to go to. After that,
I've never been to
I've
Seattle
them all.
either.
Yeah.
Well, you're forgetting Cleveland.
I said major cities.
I'm just kidding.
Major cities. I don't know.
I don't
Unless
know
LeBron comes back, I don't know when I'm going to get there anytime soon.
Yeah, you're not going to. Even if LeBron comes back, you're not getting there. You're not getting there. We know that.
What would I have to go to Cleveland for? Certainly not baseball.
I mean, even someone who like, I'm born and raised in Cleveland. I love it. I live in the suburbs now. Like, I'll admit, like, no one's traveling to Cleveland. Like, you're just not.
It would have to be some sort of guys trip scenario where like I end up at a Steelers game and then, we head west and go to like a late night Browns game or something. Or like we're trying to bounce in that whole little area. That seems like the most likely scenario to me.
Speaking of NFL games, which I haven't been to one in a while, all the fights that are happening in the stands, it's nuts.
It's really funny because like there's no way it's more than it used to be. But we just didn't have cameras to catch it. Like if everybody had a camera phone in the 700 section of the vet in like 1989, you'd get 10 videos like that a day.
So true, but it is just like
wild.
I feel like we're in a new time now where like that type of stuff is less acceptable, I guess.
Oh, it's so bad. If it's two guys that are like squaring themselves up, then you know what?
Sure.
Like the best man wins. You're just idiots. But some of this stuff is really, really disgusting. There's just like,
I've always said that about like
people
Browns fans. Like going to the Browns fans are gross. Like it is like it's just tons of drinking, doing nasty stuff. I much prefer going to a baseball game than like if I were offered an NFL game, to go to an NFL game.
My dad when I was growing up, my dad would take me. He was a giant Cowboys fan. And we would go to Cowboys-Eagles games in Philadelphia. Well, that's a testament to him because he had to be ready to like fist fight a group with me. Because not like they would have cared that he had his son with him. He was going to talk his shit.
Right.
Yeah, and he had to go in with the mindset of like, not only do I need to be ready if this stuff goes down, but like I'm going to be extra special amped because I'm going to have to tear somebody's head off in front of my kid.
Yeah, I also have a kid with me.
And like, he was that dude too, like big guy. Like he would have been very willing to take on all comers. Never came to that. Somebody threw up on a guy next to him once, and he was able to dodge that. It was like early on in the game.
I also grew up in not a similar experience, but similar in that went to Browns games like my whole life growing up. Like, in football games, I get it. People like to sit higher up because you can see everything.
Yeah.
I am extremely afraid of heights though. And that's really, I think, where it started from. I remember when I was really young, be crying at the games. I'd have to walk in like where the concessions are because I just couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I get it. Some of those stadiums get steep.
Yeah, they do. Especially like older stadiums. This is like the old Brown Stadium.
Yeah, the vet was like that. Those upper sections, like you feel like you're climbing a ladder to get to your seat.
Oh my God, I can't.
I'm not a fan either. Like you're very conscious of like, if I slip, do I just fall straight to the field?
Right. Yes. Like
right over that first rail. And it's like, how far do I go?
I see people that sit like on top of the Green Monster at Fenway. You couldn't pay me. Like I don't understand why people think that's pleasurable.
Do you see? My biggest fear is uncontrolled heights. Like, do you
same?
Like, do you
airplanes
fly?
are fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
so like,
I'm fine.
Can you look out a window? Can you look out the window?
I can.
Okay, yeah, same. But like if I were on the edge of a building, horrifying to me.
Horrifying to me. Yeah. Like I remember, when we were looking for houses, I can't handle like on the upstairs if there's like basically no railing and it's like you can fall over. Like I can't do it. I just even watching it, stuff like that gives me a weird, because you feel similarly.
Yeah, it's I have basically the exact same thoughts on heights. Like I would never go skydiving. Like that.
Never. I'd pass out. Like seriously, I would.
It's not because. But in that case, again, it's not because of the heights. Like my fear would be like the parachute not opening or whatever, like knowing that I would have the chute, I'd be like, okay, well, this thing's the answer. I don't mind that. Like I have my I have my safety blanket. I just don't trust the safety blanket. The height wouldn't bother me in that.
So
case.
for me, the thing that I think
like
about that would
standing
bother
at
me
the edge
most,
of the plane,
same.
would be way
That's
worse.
what I couldn't even do. Like,
nope.
Agreed. Once you're in the air, I think that like maybe like if I didn't pass out, like it wouldn't be the worst experience because, like you said, like you have a parachute once it opens, etc. I don't think I could even get to that point.
Yeah, like I would never be able to get to the edge of a bungee jump.
Same.
And I assume I would love it. Like the energy was probably great, but like I would never be able to look out over it. That would freak me out to no end.
Okay, here's one.
Yeah,
for
Andrew
you,
Jennison. You guys ever watch those guys that hang off the roofs of huge buildings on YouTube? It's the worst thing ever. I can't flip through that fast enough if it shows up on my phone.
The old guys that used to work like on the cords without proper cables or whatever.
Sitting on like
what
the
about roller
75th
coasters?
level of a building. Love them. But I haven't been on one in forever just because I don't know. Like I don't have kids or anything, so I don't end up in amusement parks all that frequently. Love them though. Love them.
Really? See, I even like the ones that just spin around are too high for me. I cannot do any.
Okay,
sort of
so yours is worse.
And like, I mean, I'm not a big amusement park guy, obviously, because I don't like the rides. But Cedar Point, which is like a big amusement park, not sure if you've heard of it. So
sure,
it's like big in these parts. So like for school trips, we'd go there.
Sure.
I'd be the one like playing the games, getting my caricature done, like never riding the rides. Couldn't do it.
We had a really good amusement park I don't know why it exists, but like 45 minutes from my house. So we went all the time. A couple times through the summer, you'd end up going with friends and stuff. It was just a place that you would end up. I couldn't get enough of like roller coasters and stuff. But if you put me in one of those, like the chair takes you all the way up and drops joints, I hate that shit. Don't want it at all.
So there's three things, and I want to hear and then we can talk.
We got plenty of time to get through the hitting.
Yeah. So talked about roller coasters. Oh man, I just think about Ferris wheels.
Yeah, I don't need that shit in my life. I'm so paranoid that thing is just going to come off of its like hooks and then just roll away.
And it like stops. So the three experiences I had were the Browns game. There's a place called the IX Center in Cleveland. They had an amusement park. Like when I was 5 years old, was with a friend and his family, somehow got coerced into going on this Ferris wheel. And I still have nightmares about it to this day. And then the other thing is, and my dad, older, 75 now, like old school type. I remember tobogganing and like when I was like real young and like Boy Scouts or whatever. And there was no, like, I'm not going. Like if I would go and cry. And I think those memories, and they say like, you have to do that stuff to not be scared anymore. It's made it worse for me.
Okay. Yeah. That was swimming for me at first, but I did get over it and like get it, but I would just go and cry and say I had like a stomach ache and stuff. That was really awful.
I don't really like swimming.
I want no part of it.
Never afraid to swim, just like don't really like it.
Oh, I was afraid until I wasn't, and then once I was, I might as well have been Aquaman. I was look like I was born in water. If you would have told me I had gills, I would believe it. I think that's probably a good note. We got to the 6:30 point of this one. You want to talk some hitting?
Yeah, let's get it.
I'm just going to hit you with the main question because we've got the Braves here. Big total, top stack in the top stack tool. Like they are the most likely to be the top stack. Who is your favorite stack for today?
Who is my favorite stack? Well, like you said, the preface is always the Braves. I think my favorite stack, like tournaments, because that's what I play, is Houston. They're not getting any love. They just saw Reagan's and they didn't like put up a great game against him, but they actually got to him a little bit towards the end of that game. Reagan's has been on the decline a little bit his past two starts. Just a brutal spot for him. Casey's bullpen is awful. He's getting a little bit of love. Houston is like that. I don't know why my voice just cracked, but Houston is like that prototypical, pay up to be contrarian team here. They're coming in with some of the lowest ownership on the slate. They're really good. They don't get the 9 innings here, but again, if they score a ton in 8, doesn't really matter. They're my favorite tournament team. That said, there are a lot of teams on this slate you can go to be contrarian, with Atlanta and Boston pulling a ton of ownership. And then, as you mentioned, teams like, Arizona not far behind them.
I like the shout for for the Astros here. Like, we're talking about a team that has, around a 5 to 6% chance of being the top stack. They're pulling no ownership whatsoever. They're like I don't want to like do this disservice to Houston, but like they're just a slightly stepped on version of the Braves offense. And yet they're but they're not getting any love for it. Oh, we're talking, Altuve 6,100. It's a proxy for Acuna, but it's not as good. 5,800 for Alvarez, 5,700 for Tucker. There's your, that's your Matt Olson and your insert somebody else here. Like, it's Jeremy Pena plays the role of Ozzy Albies, I guess, in this scenario, just not as good. Like,
I agree. The Braves have the best lineup in baseball. I think the Astros and Dodgers are like, maybe not, are right behind them. So yeah, maybe you didn't put it quite as eloquently as I would have liked, but all in all, your point is fine. The thing about Houston, they are literally the least owned team on this slate, not like towards the bottom. They're getting less ownership than the Nationals and the Angels.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like, it doesn't take much. If you're playing, like, I know you're not talking about this from a 150 max scenario, but if you're playing 150 lineups, to take a stand on the Astros is like very easy and doesn't impact your day at all. You want 6 or 7% Astros, 93% of the rest of your stuff can be somebody else. And you're still quite a bit above the field on all of the main Astros bats. That's easy to do, in my opinion. So I'm with you. I like it because no one is there. And you are getting a little bit of love for Reagans on the opposite side. If he's 14% owned, that's 14% of lineups that go away if you're right.
Yeah, 100%. So that's part of the reason there. The other team, I don't like them as much, but they're in my pool, is the White Sox. And I know you wanted to talk about them. The thing
I don't know if I want to talk about them.
Well,
I don't have a choice.
There's 3 things for me. One, like Sale he's been hit or miss this year. I mean, he's older now. He missed a ton of time. Like, you're not getting like the guaranteed Sale, even though we know he has a ton of upside at 9,200. Second of all, he's getting ownership. So same thing you just said about Reagans, but even more so. The White Sox lineup stinks, which gives me pause, but that doesn't really matter for today's slate as long as they can get to Sale. Lastly, most importantly, they're like middle of the pack on our top stack tool. I mean, they're like higher than teams I wouldn't expect them to be higher than. And it doesn't mean everything to me, but it means something.
Yeah. So we have them 16th in top stack, or at least we did on our last run at 3%, and then 9th in top value at about 5%. And I think this is what's causing everything for me, and it's making it a little bit easier for me to get to these White Sox bats. I'm 1 percentage point ahead of us in top stack. So we have it at 3. I have it at 4, which in the grand scheme of things doesn't sound like a lot, but just relatively to everybody else, it starts to become a pretty big boost. And they're 2% owned against a 30% owned pitcher. To me, that just became the easiest spot to get on the opposite side of some love. And I think there's enough pop here to be interesting. They're going to run out 9 righties. Like, it's just going to be righty after righty after righty after righty. Righty power is decent in Boston. There's a 119 park factor for just scoring in Boston. I don't love the 3.9 run implied total here for Chicago, but can they chase him? Can this be the spot where, like, you get 1 or 2, you get that quick Lou Bob home run, first at, his first at bat, third at bat of the game, maybe one of Anderson or Moncada get on for it. And all of a sudden it's just like, oh, that's the first pin down. Sale's already a bit less interesting. What happens if he gives up another home run? Where does that get to? It's all about the strikeouts. And this isn't a lineup that has a ton at the top outside of Moncada. It's all about the bottom of the lineup here for Sale. If he can get through the top of this order, if he gets through the first and second pretty clean, when he gets to Trace Thompson and Zach Remillard and Corey Lee, that's when it's going to get a little crazy.
Come on. Sorry, my dog's acting a fool out here.
You're good. You're good, man. No worries.
All right. So I'm with you. The other thing is, and I think this is kind of just going into more, I guess, nuance or detail about it. Sale is good. He's getting a lot of ownership because we know he has strikeout upside. But as we mentioned before, when we were having that conversation in Sale, like if he were $1,000 more expensive, he wouldn't be getting that much love because people know that there's risk associated with him. He's on a little bit of a pitch count. They're certainly not going to stretch him. So like with Pablo Lopez and the Angels, like he's getting that love because like of all those reasons, and you feel a lot more comfortable with him because he's facing a crappy Angels lineup. He's more expensive, $1,500 more than Sale. With Sale, you're getting that ownership because of the price tag. I always like picking on pitchers like that. Now, Sale isn't like the best example. A better example would be, the Yankees against Fott or whatever it is. But you know what I mean? I think that the White Sox in this spot look really, really good from a tournament perspective.
Before we go on any further, and before we talk about some more of the stacks that we're getting to, I got to let you guys know about the promo code Red Zone. You can see it on the banner at the top of the screen. I'm going to be very, very quick with this one. I want to cut straight to the point. We talk a lot about our Sims packages for baseball, for the NFL, coming up for the NBA, for golf. That's a big time financial outlay. You're talking 200 bones. You're digging in for the long haul. You're trying to play DFS in a different way. A lot of people that are want to watch this, especially for people that are trying to play in the NFL, aren't looking for that much, but they still want to get a little bit better. Our lineup generator is going to be what you're looking for. The promo code's Red Zone. You can get the NFL lineup generator for $9.99 for your first week. That'll cover you for showdowns. Certainly going to cover you for the main slate on Sunday. And it's basically like a lighter version of the Sims tool. We're doing the work on the back end. We're generating thousands and thousands and thousands of lineups, but we're getting rid of everything that we think stinks. And then we're only presenting the rest to you. So if you like the lineup, you click save. If you don't like it, you just click discard. Another one just pops up immediately. It's like swiping through Tinder. You can export up to 20 via CSV. You can lock players and swap players. You can pick how much stacking you want to do. It really helps you build a much better hands-on lineup if that's what you're looking for. If you just want to put in one lineup on Sunday, or maybe you're playing a 3 max, this is exactly the tool you're looking for, and you get to check it out for just $10. So come click that link in the description. The promo code is Red Zone if you just want to type it in yourself. I promise you guys that if you're a single lineup type player, this is a great baseline for you. Worst case scenario, if you hate it, you're only out $9.99 for that week. You can cancel it anytime. So we talked a little bit about the White Sox here. Do we want to talk at all about the chalk teams for today? The Red Sox and the Braves. They are the two highest owned teams that I see right now. 11.7% in the aggregate for Boston, 10.3 on Atlanta. That was the last run of ownership that we had, 20 minutes ago or something. How do you feel about the chalk tonight at the Dish?
I know Neil talks about this a lot, or asks about this, like, can chalk be under-owned? And in this case, and you've seen with the Braves a lot this year, sure can. The Braves are really expensive, so they're hard to get to. You can't use too expensive pitchers and get there. You can certainly use pieces. For me, they're obviously the top stack on the board. I'd rather get to them like in pieces. They are really expensive. Yeah. Another reason why Houston's going to get no love, but I have no problem with their ownership. I mean, even facing good pitching, I'd have no problem with ownership that they're getting. So, they make total sense any slate they're on. Boston, like, I get it. They're cheap-ish for who they are. They're in a good spot at home against Toussaint. They just don't look different to me than the Seattles, San Diegos, all those other teams right below them of the world. Atlanta's the clear number one. Boston is getting ownership as the number one or number two. I just don't really see it that way. How about you?
I basically don't have much of the Braves as a stack. I only have 2 of them. Everything I get to of the Braves is either a one-off, a 2-man, or a 3-man. It's not part of any major stacks. And then similarly for the Red Sox, I only have 6 stacks, but I have 8% in the aggregate. There are 12% owned. So, like, I'm getting to a bunch of Boston, particularly the top of the order. It's just not coming as stacks. It's coming as filler. I have 4 teams today that are making up the large majority of my stacks. We already touched on the White Sox before. The Giants are one of those teams, which I absolutely hate, but it happens so frequently that I can't get away from it. The Twins are a team that I'm getting to, and they have a little bit of love.
Oh,
and then the Mets are my 4th team that I am getting to today.
I completely skipped over this. A guy, and I'm glad you mentioned the Twins, a guy I'm getting a little bit of, just to go all the way back, is Davis Daniel for the Angels.
Talk to me.
I don't love it, but as I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Taijuan Walker, I don't love pitching on this slate. He's basically bare minimum 4,600 or whatever.
Yeah.
He's coming in after an opener, which on one hand isn't great because, you have less innings upside, less pitch upside, all that stuff. But on the other hand, you're getting out of the way of facing the good part of this Twins lineup. Twins lineup is very weak today. Ryan Jeffers is hitting third. He's really cheap on a slate. I don't love pitching. Our top pitcher tool doesn't like him, like to be a top 2 pitcher, but he's the highest like value pitcher on the slate according to our projections. So there's something to be said there. Talked about wanting to pay up for Houston. If Houston, goes off here, then I'm fine with Daniels is whatever 10 points. And if Houston doesn't go off, I probably wasn't going to win anyways. So
I don't have any Robert. I don't have any Daniel right now. Great value at 4,500. Since I'm not really getting to any of the major pay up stacks, I have I'm not really getting then to any of the pay down pitchers. So like they usually go hand in hand. If I don't have Brave stacks, it's a lot more likely that I just don't have the $4,500 pitcher. But I normally do have a nice look at those $4,500 pitchers. I have too much.
So here's my question to you. Oh, that's what I was about to ask. Who do you have a lot of? Because you said you don't have a lot of Atlanta. You have some Boston. You have some Chicago, but I can't believe that's your highest exposed team. Is it Minnesota?
So it's technically the Giants, which I hate. And I'm thinking about what I should do in the interim, because if they're going to go to Yarborough and run out all of these righties, I kind of like it in that they're going to have this sea of righties out there against Yarborough for the second run through, but they might be able to get through 2 innings against not Ryan Yarborough and not have to worry about the pinch hitting first. So I think, oddly enough, if Yarborough is the long man, then in a way it lengthens my time. But at the same time, if they blast Yarborough, then the pinch hits just start early too.
Well, that's fair. But on the other side, if they blast Yarborough, like they blasted Yarborough, you want them, right? Like if they blast,
but I need them to stay in and keep doing it for 9 innings. Like they can chase Yarborough for 5 runs, and then all of a sudden 4 of those dudes just aren't even in the game anymore.
That's true. So I guess the bigger concern for me, on a similar level, a concern for me would be like that opener. If the opener all of a sudden goes 2-3 innings, it does extend your pinch hit, length, but that's like 3 less innings you have.
Yeah, then they're going to be out there, but they've already failed once.
Right. Exactly.
25% of their opportunities are already gone.
Yes.
It's an interesting balance. I think I'm going to manually adjust them because, if there was no pinch hit risk, I think they would look great today against Ryan Yarborough in this park. 120 park factors on both sides. They'd be very interesting to me, more so than anything else. And they technically only have 8 batters because Tyler Fitzgerald, if he's hitting 9th today, for the Giants, he's not in the salary structure. So you can only get to 8 Giants even if you wanted to. And the most expensive one in the projected lineup that I have is 4,300. So it's not like these guys cost all that much either. I love the spot, but I'm terrified that I get 2 at-bats out of most of these guys.
Yeah, I get it. I don't like the spot as much as you. I don't hate it. I don't like Yarborough here, but there's just other spots with less risk I like more. That said, a lot of people are going to feel that way. San Fran's not going to get any love.
No, they are not getting any love at all. And that's why I think that I can pretty safely walk them back a bit. But Austin Slater is he's going to get pinch hit for. Almost for sure. Luis Matos is very likely to get pinch hit for. And that's the kind of stuff where, the moment Austin Slater is going to face a righty, they're going to take him out.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't like it, man. I don't like it at all. Let's see. Where was it? I lost that. Dwayne Moody said, Josh, I thought you liked the Twins today. What happened? Nothing. They are 13% owned for me and one of the 4 teams that I'm actually stacking today. But I don't like any bit of this. The only lineup that we need yet is the Giants, so that's an even bigger headache for me. I think I just have to walk them back a little bit, and there's not much that I can do to stop that from happening. I don't like it, though. I just feel like this is a scenario where I'm just overrating a team. I love the park, though. I love this park for power so much. And I think Ryan Yarborough is next level, not good. But the Giants are going to have, I can't go from having a ton to just crossing them off in my mind. They're going to be one of the 4 teams that I have a lot of, but they're showing up in basically everything when I click go, and I'm going to try to stop that from happening.
I don't think Yarborough's good. I don't think he's like trash, though. Maybe I'm wrong there.
I mean, let's see. Giants, Yarborough. Yeah, you're probably right. No strikeouts. He's not threatening, but he doesn't really give up much power. He's just like a guy.
Yeah, he's for sure just a guy.
Yeah. What else do you have your eye on? Any other teams stand out, both either positively or negatively? Guys you like or guys that are getting ownership that you don't like?
I mean, I'm going to go back to Arizona because we haven't really touched on them too much. They're getting besides Boston, they're the team getting like, according to our tools, like the most, like way too much ownership than they should be. Yeah. But it's one of those things where, like when I first look at the slate and like the night before any tools or anything come out, I have a pretty good, I've been doing this long enough, pretty good idea of where the field's going to go, ownership, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, I don't, take any of that like it's gospel. Sure. I'm using the tools, but I have a pretty good idea. Arizona was like the first team I looked at last night, priced right. Luke Weaver stinks in Yankee Stadium. I like Arizona a lot more than the tools say I should, which is definitely one of those spots where they're obviously going to fail because the tools are right more of the time than I am. But It's just one where I can't wrap my brain around it.
I'm starting to get like second thoughts of liking this slate. At 6:00, I felt great. And now that I see myself on the White Sox against Sale, the Twins, the Mets, and the Giants here when no one else is playing the Giants. Like, I really don't think that I'm in good shape any longer. So I'm sure today is the day. Like, I'm going to somehow make a change, and then the Giants are going to put up 25 tonight. Like, they're the San Francisco 49ers instead.
I'm a little bit surprised that, like, the White Sox and the Cardinals are ahead of the Giants in our top stack tool. Feel similarly about the Yankees here. Like, I think the Giants and Yankees, for different reasons, both are intriguing in tournaments.
I'm always interested in the Yankees because I just feel like they're always primed to hit a bunch of home runs.
Yeah, for sure.
And I get them a lot. But today doesn't appear to be the day that I'm getting there. So I think I just we're going to go ahead and rerun everything that I've got. Because I got my lineups in, so I can mess around a little bit now. If you guys have any questions, there's 460 of you out there. Hit the like button and then hit up chat with any questions you may have. We could take whatever for like the next 10 minutes or so. Einsteinium wants to know, no love for the Mariners. Mariners are taking on the Rangers here. Dane Dunning, their opponent. They're 10th in ownership, but they are 3rd in our top stack tool. Have you looked at Seattle at all today?
Yeah, our tools are making me, like, if you ask me one team right now I would regret not playing, it's the Mariners. Our tools really like them. Now, a lot of teams in the middle are jumbled up, so you take like half a percentage point away from their top stack percentage, it looks worse. But that said, I mean, you can't really do that. So they're 3rd in our tools. They're coming in with not nearly enough ownership as far as that's concerned. So I do think Seattle is another one. I don't want to say sneaky because they are going to get some love, but certainly under-owned with big-time upside here. I respect Dunning, but he's not a guy that's like impervious to getting hit. So I don't hate it at all.
I don't have any problem with it on paper. It's not a team that I'm getting to. Cal Raleigh is the guy that I am getting to out of that group, and I don't mind that in any way. One-offing a catcher is always very easy for me to do, but I don't have any real bulk at this point. All right, so got my lineups generated. In like 2 minutes, I'll know what I'm going to have, but I discounted some of the plate appearances on some of the Giants guys, and I'm hoping that just keeps me in check here. I just hope that I didn't do it too much and then find out that now I have 0. Because I think the truth lies, at least for me, somewhere in the middle. But because I don't think I'm definitely not right if my entire model gives me a ton of the Giants and I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to go with 0 instead. That won't sit well with my head. So I'm hoping that I can get to, somewhere around 10% of the Giants pretty naturally, which is more than I would want in theory. But I think it's a nice compromise for everything that I was getting. Marvin H. said, thoughts on the Mets? We touched on them a little bit earlier. It is one of the teams that I am getting to. They're only 2.5% owned. I think they're at least a little bit interesting, especially when they're outside of New York. Being able to play in Philadelphia just really helps the park factor. So if the highest owned guy for the Mets is Brandon Nimmo at 4% as a lefty in the leadoff spot, I think he's going underrepresented. I think the Mets are going a little underrepresented. That's not stopping me from getting to Taijuan Walker, but I do think the Mets are a little underowned, but not too much.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Mets are. Okay, so I'm choosing Walker over the Mets side tonight just because there are very few pitchers I actually like, and there's a bunch of good offenses I like. But on a different slate, I could easily see that being reversed, if that makes sense.
No, I think that makes a ton of sense. All right. Any other questions? Chris Topher says Twins underlooked. Not to me. Not to me. A lot of people showing up just not listening to the things that I have, because Twins and Mets are two of my exposed stacks. If they're underlooked, I have not said that on this stream. They are the teams that I'm getting to. Alfred Mann wants to know: are you concerned at all with the Minnesota weather?
Not.
I don't
really.
want to say that I'm not concerned, but I'm not concerned.
Yeah, I'm not really concerned. I see it as like a yellow orange. So, if it gets bumped up, maybe that I'll be more concerned. But as of now, no.
Yeah. I should be more concerned because I'm bad at getting weather right, but I have disregarded it for right now. Let's see. Sean V's talking about Jeff McNeil for reasons. What else we got going on in here? Any more questions in chat? Let's see. Does Discord have any questions? I could hop over to Discord for the first time in a minute or two. Nope. Nothing that I'm tagged in, at least. That's okay. We'll keep it in YouTube chat.
I've had this on my mind since our previous conversation. I got to get it out now because obviously we still have a couple minutes.
Go for it.
This is how nuts I am with heights. So this is the best story I can think of. So after college, I moved to Colorado and lived there for a few years. I have some really good friends there still. And I remember one fall, around now time, we were hanging out. There was me and 3 buddies, and there were 4 girls. We were at one of their apartments, and they were like, "Oh, we have a pool on top of our whatever." You know what I mean? Just a pool on top. And to get up to the pool, you had to go up one of those spiral staircases outside.
Okay.
I wouldn't do it. I would not do it.
Okay. It's that bad.
I was down. It's that bad. I'm still hearing about it to this day. My friends were dying. It was so embarrassing, but I couldn't do it.
Would you be more likely to do it right now? It's just life different where you just be I can walk up the steps.
Yeah, probably. For some reason, I feel that way. Now, if you put the steps in front of me, maybe I'd feel differently, but
okay.
I feel now it wouldn't be a problem. But the way I can't really remember exactly how they were, but they were high. They were you were looking over stuff. I hate that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan at all. I would have been able to make it up those steps, but I wouldn't have been a fan of that scenario.
Very, very embarrassing for sure.
I believe that. Okay, so I probably discounted the Giants a bit too much, but when I cut the White Sox back down now, it should we're okay. It's just opening me up to a couple more teams that I probably didn't need all that much of, but I'm still getting to. But I still have a bit of the Giants, still have a bit of the Twins and Mets. It's getting me to a little bit of the Yankees now, oddly enough. So other than that, I'm going to be pretty happy with my exposures. I'm going to be pretty happy in that I don't need to keep tweaking anything. Whether or not I'm actually happy with my exposures is probably a different scenario because I have a lot of the teams that aren't expected to be good today.
Yeah, but it's MLB, so you never know what's going to happen.
Nicholas Robertson wants to know what I think of the Phillies. They're fine. Not a team that I have a lot of. I'm basically neutral to the field. Not much to.
They're right in that secondary. They're right in that secondary tier for me. When I talked about Boston, they're right there with Boston. They're not on the Braves level, but there's a bunch of teams on that secondary tier, and they're in there.
All right. I'm pasting these lineups in now. I think I'm feeling pretty good with what I've got. So let's get that set and ready to go. All right. Lineups are in. Tizzlemane says, I've got 3,700 left for an outfielder on DK. Any suggestions? I will tell you who I think is the best outfielder that has that price tag, and we can go from there. Do you have an answer off the top of your head? I know that's a pretty vague range of $3,700 outfielders.
I like Tommy Pham because I like Arizona, but I mean, I don't know.
The highest ranked guy that I have under that salary is Estevan Florial, but he's 2,400. So if you want my answer to spend that amount of money, it would be Rafaela, 3,600 hitting leadoff. That would be my third highest ranked outfielder behind Acuna and Florial.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's a salary thing. Like if we want to just say like overall, it's still Rafaela, but you know, it's fine.
So I see it, and I figured out how to do this like just a few minutes ago. So someone said, oh shit. Oh yeah, they were high, or you were high being in Colorado. For sure, both. I mean,
yeah,
there's no denying that you know what I mean? For sure, both. But the stairs were, I mean, high, like really, really high. For me to not go on that adventure, if you will, like they were high.
I've got my final exposures for everything. Oh, let me hit everybody with it. 3 pitchers heavily exposed. Framber Valdez in 51% of lineups. Brandon Pfaadt, 43%. That got out of hand in a way that I didn't want it to. 37% to Pablo Lopez. Next highest guy is Chris Sale at 19. But my most exposed teams for today, we've got 4 teams, 20 or more stacks. Giants, Mets, Twins, White Sox. They are my most exposed teams. The White Sox are the team, or the Twins are the team that I'm getting to the most. No, actually, it is the White Sox, then the Twins. I do have small stands on the Yankees. I have double-digit stacks of the Angels now. I have 10 Angels stacks. And I happen to have now 11 Brave stacks, and I am neutral to the field. That's mostly still one-offs. I have 42% of the 78% of Braves is one-offs. So, like, I have 15% of Acuna outside of primary Brave stacks. Totally cool with that.
Sounds about right.
I'm feeling good now. I just need one shitty team to do well. I would prefer it to be the White Sox. If the White Sox do well today, I'll be in great shape because they're not owned and they're on the opposite side of Sale. That's my linchpin for victory today. White Sox being good is the best thing that could happen to me.
I was kind of a pussy and middled that. I used a little bit of Sale and I used a little bit of the White Sox, which, you know, obviously you can't play every game, especially if you're making minimal lineups. So usually in those spots, I'll just avoid both sides. But I do think there's a real upside with Sale and the White Sox. Like that's what happens when DK rewards so many points for strikeouts. So like, that's just what it is. Paul's wondering where I lived in Colorado. I lived in Denver.
Anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here? We're at the top of the hour now. I think we could dip out. 390 people in here. Thank you for being here, guys. We only have one more full week of the MLB regular season. I'm kind of going to miss it because I don't really like the MLB Showdown product.
I hate MLB Showdown. I will say the MLB baseball product is pretty good because they play every other day. So like the slates get a little monotonous with the same teams, but at least for the first round, you get decent slates. Like it starts to get weak after that because I don't like MLB Showdown either. I mean, that's I just don't like. I'm with you.
We'll have like a week's worth of decent playoffs. That's all you can.
I'm with you. I'm gonna miss MLB also. The nice thing is that it's because it's so long, it's going to start again much sooner than the other sports start.
Yes, it does. We will be back again talking baseball in not too many months. But for now, guys, that's going to do it. Shout out to the Red Zone promo. Sign up for the NFL lineup generator. Get it for $9.99. Sign up for Owner's Box. They are the sponsor of this show. You can click that link in the description of this video. Get up to $500 on your first deposit. That's going to come back in Owner's Bucks and 1 week of our NFL Sims tool. Don't miss that, guys. I'll be using it on Owner's Box once again this week. I'm coming for that top prize, $35K in my pocket. Enjoy the rest of tonight. Be safe this weekend. Have some fun. You'll see me again on Sunday for some NFL. Matt, do you do anything over the weekend?
I've got some family stuff to do, but other than that, just family stuff and watching football.
Boom, there it is. Alrighty, folks, enjoy. Get your lineups in. You have 3 minutes to go before lock, but you're all playing for second place, at least if you're in the relay throw. I'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks.